Hello, today I'm doing my discussion on John Gresham Machen. Machen was born in Baltimore, Maryland, to a prominent family. His mother was a published author of the time, and his father was a successful lawyer in the Baltimore area. They were well-to-do Southern aristocrats, and they used to hobnob around with the best of Southern society. Machen went to Johns Hopkins University, and then eventually, from the prodding of his pastor at the Presbyterian Church, he was convinced to go to Princeton Seminary. Once completing Princeton, he decided he was going to go to Germany and study under the famous German scholars of the time. And while he was there, he bumped into and became acquainted with a man named Wilhelm Hermann. Hermann was a modernist, and he actually represented everything that John Machen would be eventually opposed to. But he was taken by Hermann and started getting very close to, and started actually listening and believing in some of what he was saying. He was very impressionable at the time, because he said that Hermann had a very charismatic way about him. He had a very strong personality. However, the most important thing that he found was the fact that Hermann had a deep devotion to Christ and a passion and a joy that he didn't find in the American churches, and that lured him towards the modernist way of thinking. But eventually he would come back and he would realize that the modernist way of thinking, or liberal way of thinking, did not recognize any of the supernatural events in the Bible. They didn't believe in the virgin birth, the resurrection, or the second coming of Christ, the miracles. They weren't concentrating on that. Machen believed himself to be more of a Calvinist. He believed that Calvinism was the perfect manifestation of the faith, religion, and theology. And so he found himself believing more of himself as a Calvinist. He didn't see himself as a fundamentalist, because fundamentalism by nature concentrates on the fundamentals of the faith. And Machen believed that there was much more, that he was an originalist, or he believed in the literal translation of the Bible, word for word, and supernatural events and everything. He wrote a book called Christianity and Liberalism, and the reason he didn't call it fundamentalism and liberalism was because he believed that liberalism, or modernism, was a direct assault on the Christian faith, not on fundamentalism, but on Christianity and Christian beliefs itself, and not on the very small sect of fundamentalists. The forces of liberalism or modernism were very hostile to the biblical faith. They believe that the past is of little value, that truth is replaced with usefulness. They believe heavily in science and culture, and they believe that science and culture would drive their beliefs, and not biblical tradition and biblical faith. They deny, like I said, all of the supernatural events in the Bible. They actually pit faith against culturalism or culture, and modernism always sides with culture. This is why a lot of modernists will evolve. Their faith will evolve in the church, and where traditionalists or literalists keep the faith over years and decades and millennium. He was charged with insubordination by the presbytery of the Presbyterian Church, and he was stripped of his ordination because he refused to support a lot of the missionaries that the Presbyterian Church was sending out. He was sending out modernist missionaries to a lot of places, like Pearl Buck they sent to China, and who was a non-committal modernist. So he did not believe that they were doing right by not following the mandates of missions. So he began the Orthodox Presbyterian Church, who today has about 188 churches throughout the world. It's not a very big, I think it's 56,000 members. So it's very small, but because of John Grisham Machen, it is a faith today, and it's still growing, and it's still building, and it's still holding true to the core beliefs of the Bible.